Hello and welcome to the first episode of Sip TYP. I'm MJ.
And I'm Zanae.
We want to open this episode with a little introduction, letting you know who we are as people. You already know we're sisters. I am more of a modern idealistic kind of parent, if you will. I use various different types of methods to train, educate, and discipline my children. And Zanae?
Well, girl, I believe I'm that stern parent, but I'm working with trying to allow my child to grow and support their growth. It's very hard.
Yes. I will start with saying that we both hold educational degrees, college degrees in psychology. So we do have that background as well. We have worked with children and raised children for many years, probably between the two of us. What do you say, over 50?
Okay, look, my daughter's damn near 30.
So, yeah. So I've been a bonus parent to at least 5 children. And I biologically have 2. Do you want to share how many you have? Or?
Dear Lord, there's a number of children that I've catered to, a number that call me mom over the years. You know, as your child grows, they gravitate towards children that either are in need or, I don't know, they have some type of something. And that would be me. I'm that mom.
Yeah. And so I will say this, that we both have children that are virtual schooling right now during the pandemic.
Yes.
So that is a whole different challenge for us. So we are riding that wave with you all as well. My biggest challenge with the virtual school, I have 2 challenges because I have 2 children on virtual school and they're not the same, not even by far. So one challenge is getting one child up and ready and out the bed when all you really have to do is roll over. And then the other challenge for the other child is being engaged because the work is too easy and not challenging. So those are the 2 different perspectives I have as a parent through virtual schooling.
And I work with that on just the one child. 10-year-old just wants to roll over, hold the blanket over his head, and do his little virtual thing.
Yes, I absolutely think that virtual school takes out an element that in-person school does provide. It provides socialization, which we all know, but it does provide a concrete ethic that is not presented virtually.
I can understand that. While I actually appreciate the homeschooling, I'm sorry. I need my kid at home. It's just a lot less anxiety provoking for me.
I agree.
I'm that person. I need to see my kid. I need to know that they're doing well. I need to hear the teacher myself, know that that teacher's not, doing anything wrong. And I'm enjoying it. I am.
Okay, so I agree for other reasons.
Yes.
I agree on the aspect that I don't want to expose my children to any more dangers than they need to be. Let's discuss parenting pre-COVID and during COVID and the challenges that we faced during this time. I know pre-COVID, I feel like my life was a roller coaster. It was every day was a non-stop, fast-paced moving train that went all around pretty much the state because my children had me everywhere. My job had me everywhere. I was all over the place doing a number of different things. As a single parent, it was never enough time in a day to get everyone where they needed to be. I had to Uber the older child one place while I'm dropping off the younger child. Like, there was a lot happening before COVID. And now there's a lot more emotional things that are happening. There's a lot more sentimental things that are happening. We're still pretty fast-paced in our own right, but we're doing it from the comforts of our home. We're playing in the yard. We're coming up with new things and new ways where we can connect. We have game night more often because my children don't have sports. They don't leave the house really. So, we're jousting. We're playing hide and seek in the house. We're in the yard when the weather's, good. Those type of things, but it's all emotionally connected now. Do you feel the same?
Well, pre-COVID, I very seldom left the house anyway. for me, COVID actually brought peace in the sense that I don't have to watch my son walk to the bus stop alone. I don't have to worry about him being kidnapped, beat up. He's so little. You know, I think I preferred it the way it is. Not COVID, though. Because I want to leave my house whenever I want to leave my house. But as far as having a virtual learning situation, I prefer that. That option is great for somebody that's disabled and really can't get their child to and from, say, activities like basketball or karate or school games or whatever. I can't do all that. So for me, being at home learning, it's better.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Like, there's so many different family dynamics, and we're both single parents, but even in that aspect, our lives look very different. I'm very out in the community, whether it's with work or with the children. I'm out in the community usually every day before COVID. And for you, every day was being home. And, you know, for me, I struggled with having time to do what I needed to do for the children because I'm working, because I have more than one child that I'm kind of catering to in many different arenas, you know, school, after school, sports, yada, yada, yada. Whereas you're catering to your child at home, and your biggest concern is the transportation part and how your child gets to and from. And that's very real. That's very palpable. And for a mother that has a child that navigates MBTA pre-COVID, and is able to go out and do things on their own, I still have those same concerns because they're a child in a world that isn't always pretty. So that's very palpable. And I think just having children that are, I guess, vulnerable in that way, and being a parent and not being able to be there, despite it being a learning experience for the child, but just sending your child out knowing what the world could be like is very devastating for a parent, especially a single parent that might not be able to drop everything when your child calls.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, you know, when my daughter was younger, it was kind of the same. I believe that I was more of a workaholic back then because I didn't have as much pain. I had pain, but not bad. And I could get her to and from a lot more than I can my son. And it stopped as the pain progressed. I would actually have to watch her from a window as she came up the hill from her bus stop or whatever. But I can't see that from my son's perspective. I'm looking out the window. I can't see him go up this street. So it's like, it's a lot harder, especially as you get older and you don't realize that. I don't know. You don't realize your youth is not as effective because you're not young no more.
Yeah. For these younger parents, younger than myself especially, youth is definitely a benefit. You know, some people are like, oh, I don't want to have a child too young. And by all means, I'm not advocating for you to. I was a young parent, and by all means, the struggles are very, very real. I had my first child at 18, so it's very different than having a child today. I know differently. I am evolved into a different woman than I was then. I can quite clearly say that I was a child then, having a child, but my perspectives, my understandings, my morals, my justifications are just very different now, being the woman that I am, from when I first had my child, started having children, which is very interesting because I cared for and raised children before I actually had children, but my perspective didn't change till I had my own child. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when it's
I'm not discrediting any bonus parents because it's a hard job either way. But for me, my perspective and my reality really hit a wall and changed, pivoted completely when I had my first child. I couldn't send him back to anybody, I guess, for lack of better words. I didn't have anybody else to kind of help with that child. So it was definitely a learning curve.
Yes. And see, I was married with my first child. So it wasn't single parenting in the beginning. I want to say it became single parenting as she was turning 2. And then from 2 until now. Yeah.
And so that's even different.
Oh, believe me.
Because that infancy stage, as much as we love it, I love just cuddling a new baby. Like, I love that part. But that is the most demanding time for your physical being.
I was gonna say that is the most anxiety provoking time. Yes, because I was terrified she's gonna stop breathing. I was terrified I'm gonna drop her. I was terrified you produce enough milk. You got all this.
That's that first time mom experience. And that's another difference between being a bonus parent and being the parent. You have to take all that into consideration, and that is very different. I can remember back the day I brought my son home, my first child home, days before Thanksgiving. Sat him in the car seat on the table. Not appropriate anymore for today's world. You cannot sit your child in a car seat for storage. Your child should only be in the car seat in the car because it's not regulated for regular seated purposes. But being a young mom, I brought my son home in the car seat, rocking, off the base, right on the table. Went straight to cooking after a C-section. And, it's just like, he wasn't even, we got out of the hospital we was in the hospital for a day and a half, 2 days. He wasn't a week old. And I'm giving him taste of everything that was liquid. Because, again, it's just, why can't he have it? Wow. He drinks milk, he's fine. Okay. Luckily, nothing happened. Again, it's a learning curve. I don't advocate for anything that I've done. Well, no, I shouldn't say anything, but for these things, I don't advocate for anyone to do. But these are things that I did. My son's fine and healthy, now and today. So I can look back on it and say, maybe I shouldn't have did that, but he's fine, right? So I can laugh about it now. But he wasn't a week old, and he's in the kitchen with me cooking, and I'm doing my thing. And, part of those skills I learned from being a bonus parent and cooking and doing things with these other children that I raised. But the difference was the age. The age and the ability to manage the things that I was doing. Right. And that's what did not connect with me being a new mom. I got this. I've been doing this. And in some senses, it worked. I did have it. I knew what I was doing in a sense, but I didn't realize that age had a lot to do with what you're doing with your children. I just kind of grew with children and just expected it to all kind of mesh together, which again, it's an awareness that I didn't have then. So that's definitely one thing that is different. Not including the times have changed from when my firstborn was an infant to now. And so having my second child, things were very different. And I think my second child progressed quicker than my first child. And I don't know if it's just my memory kind of lapsing and having...
It could be because she's a girl.
It could be because she's a girl.
Girls grow faster than boys. It's proven. So it's quite possible.
Possibly. But I don't know. It just went quicker and things happened quicker. And I'm not sure where the time went. And, when I look back, it's like I remember them being so little. And I remember them being so innocent and so immature and so, age appropriate immature. And I look at them today and I'm like, wow, where did the time go? I'm sure you feel that. Your oldest is older than my oldest.
Girl, listen. I'm sitting there listening to you talk and I'm going, yeah, back in my day. That's all I heard, back in my day. Because I was 19 when I had my first, and I actually worked for a pediatrician. So for me, I was always playing by the rules.
Yeah.
The baby had to have breast milk only for this many months. Then you introduce this for a week, a little bit of cereal, or a little bit, and a little vegetable. Once a week, you got to change that vegetable. Like, I did everything the same. Well, my son was a little different.
I recall hearing about those things. They really put them into place. Not for my first child.
But because I work for a pediatrician, I think I just said, okay, I have to do it like this, like this, like this. It was a lot easier to do that way. But with my son, I want to say the boy had a Big Mac in his hand. By the time he was one, it was beautiful. But I blame his sister.
And that's another good thing about having more than one. You can always, blame the bad habits on the older sibling.
There you go.
No, and to be very transparent, as a parent, I know I created some less desirable habits in my children. Like, my children definitely have probably most of my personality. So we are very sarcastic. We joke back and forth a lot. They are big empaths because I am. They can feel you across the room and know what you need. The question is, are they going to give you what you need? And so this is one of the things that changes between the two of my children. My oldest will absolutely seek you out, figure out how to help you. My youngest will stay away from you until she's ready to really take on that project. And again, it's two different perspectives, and I appreciate both of their foundations for that. The other conversation I have as a parent is, when is enough for my son, my oldest, who is by far always trying to help everyone. But for my daughter, it's like, well, what about everyone else? You come out of your shell, see what someone else needs before you just hibernate and go into your cocoon. It's just a different perspective, and I would never want them to lose their individuality in that, but I always want to protect their core self and who they are.
Very much. I like that.
Yeah. And so my daughter is very feisty. Yeah, she has the younger side of me where we're just like firecrackers. We're going. We have that personality where you drop us in the middle of any group, we'll watch it for a little while, and then we'll just blossom in our own way. You'll know who we are before you know our names. We are those people. My son is more of the loner. He likes to kind of sit back and watch and seek people out one by one. He won't take on a group. And that's preference, and that's okay too. I just don't want them to hold on to these aspects to the point where they're damaging their possibilities in life.
Right.
They have to figure out how to use both sides of that. And that is a challenge, especially as they grow, especially as, information through technology and technological stuff takes over the world. How do I get my loner to come out into a group when you can hide behind a screen?
Yeah. Social media doesn't make it that easy.
No, COVID does not help either.
That either.
So that is something I feel like every parent is kind of juggling with. There are some people that naturally do so well on social media and, can transcend from social media into real life and vice versa and do well with that. And then there's the other population that I feel is more predominant, but I could be wrong because I haven't seen any statistics. But there's more children that are, anxiety ridden, that, social interactions with peers or other, work environments, even interview stuff, where they're just not able to perform.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I have seen that. They're so into their cell phones or their gaming or anything else that when it comes to interacting with real life people, that they really don't get it.
Yeah.
They don't see or sense the sadness or discontent from their actions versus somebody just having a bad day.
Right.
They really don't see it.
Right. And I think that's another big disconnect, and I think that's part of why we see some of the less thought out actions that we see today in children, because they're not fully aware of how their actions affect someone else.
So what do you think would be a tip to actually help with that? Because I'm at a loss. I talk to my son all the time, and I say my son because my daughter and I, we always have conversations, and she and I, we're empathetic to everyone's needs. We always try to make sure we're there. But when it comes to my son, I don't think that he's connected emotionally. I think when we watch movies together and I watch him and I listen to the words he uses, it tells me he doesn't understand. I have no idea how to help him understand that. As many times I talk to him, I could be blue in the face and say, baby, you didn't see what happened? You can't say that about that woman because she was just beat up by that man that you think is okay chasing her. You think it's okay. No. You see the disconnect? Yeah. I'm trying to help him, but you don't get it.